Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's Inworld review. It is the 2nd of July, 2017, so we're in another month already. The solstice is gone. Who would believe it? Time flies, doesn't it? And we're here to engage in a little bit of conversation about the hypergrid and social virtual worlds and all that stuff. Fairly lightweight show this week after a couple of weeks of pretty heavy duty and a lot of tech talk as well. I am Mal Burns, of course. Sitting next to me on my right, we have James Atloud, the regular co-host, but also most importantly, the man operating all our cameras to make us look good. So, hi, James.
Hi, Mal. Thanks. It's great to be here.
And our special guest this week has been on the show quite a few times before, so she knows the drill, so to speak. Is Leslie Kling of Tanglegrid. So welcome, Leslie.
Well, thanks for having me back again.
Pleasure to have you. We don't do what they call heavy rotation around here, but we do rotation. So it's nice to get people back at seemingly regular intervals at any rate. Okay, now if you're around about an hour ago, we of course brought you this week's Metaworld news, which is now a separate program. Not any stuff greatly worthy of talking about on there this week. So really, we're just going to sort of dive into sort of hypergrid affairs and things, and more or less just with Leslie. So let's get started. Regular viewers will probably know, and people who know your grid, of course, will know this. You are known, firstly, for the hypergrid treasure hunts, which are, they're hypergrid wide, despite the fact that you put them together, and they've always been great fun. And of course, you're known as an expo region because you have expo regions on Tanglegrid that are designed to be sort of hypergrid expos. Let's start. What's new? What's new at the moment? Have we got any expos and hunts and things like that coming up?
The hunts we're gonna lead. We're doing another update because it needs it. Because every time you do a hunt, you always find something that needs to be changed. But we are going to get that taken care of, and the next hunt should be probably after the summer vacation period, because everybody's on vacation, or it's just a lot slower at this time of year for us open sim grids. The expo. The Steampunk Expo is up. It's not the official opening date for that is August 27th, again after the summer vacation. But that's not stopping you from going over there. There's lots of space left to drop your Steam items. It could be clothing, it could be buildings, it could be machines, and anything to do with steampunk or steam stuff. And you just have to go over there, find yourself a lot, because I've got them all marked off, and drop your stuff. That's it. And but you can do it now, because we like to give people time to be able to set up and everything before the actual crowd comes through.
Yeah.
And because it is summer, that's why it's August 27th is the actual official starting date of the Steampunk Expo. But it never hurts to have a few weeks ahead so you can set up, build, or whatever you need to do. We've also changed the expo this year, or this set, on a Globits region. So anybody who wants to actually sell their items there through Globits is more than happy to do so.
Oh, that's a big change, isn't it? Because previously it was expo only, wasn't it? It was,
no selling of items or anything. You can just say where they can buy them. But we found that was the one plus point with the Globits for on our thinking. We're not a grid-wide Globit. We've got 2 regions Globit, but I'll mention the second one later. Actually 3, but the expo I found, because I keep getting asked, where do I get that? Where do I get that? So I said to T and to Gary, why don't we just make it Globits? And that way people can actually purchase the item and take it home with them if they
And
really wanted it.
And more to the point, if they've got a Globits wallet, so to speak, then it's not tied to your grid or any particular grid. It's transferable across regions, grids. So it's basically, I like having a wallet for Kitely Market. You can have it delivered anywhere, rather than relying on the grid, the currency in your own particular grid or something like that.
Yeah, and we're not Kitely. We're just a standard grid, so we don't have the market. So if something is on that grid that they really, really want, it's better that they can actually purchase it with their Globits. So we have also said to our shopkeepers, like, that's the second Globit area. We call it Globitville. It's basically shops. And we say to our clients, okay, we're not Kitely. We don't have a market. But we have shops that you can actually put your items in if you want to go that route to get them onto the hypergrid so people can buy them.
Right.
Instead of just in Tangle. So, because we have things that other grids don't have, every grid has their own little specialty. Like, I can't, off the top of my head, think of something. Or maybe like greedy tables and stuff like that. But then we still have a few shops open there, so if anybody's interested in, putting their stuff in there, be our guest. It's free. The shops are free. The only thing we ask is that you come in one time within the 30 days to actually touch the sign so we know that you're still interested in keeping the shop. Because there only is 22 of them. So if you don't show up in 30 days and click your sign, we assume that you've moved on and we clean your stuff out. Simple.
Fair enough. If it's not used, you're out.
Because they can be used for other people that really want to use them. So
The Globit system, whilst we're mentioning that, seems to be taking off. I mean, here on the Great Canadian Grid, for example, there are whole regions now that are Globits. There are still other regions that are Podex, and of course, you really have to choose one or the other. But I think DigiWorlds and several other grids I've hopped to, are increasingly finding the Globits system in place. So Christopher Colosi, isn't he? I should get him back on this show. We had him a while ago.
It wouldn't hurt because he can maybe explain, because they have done a few changes to their side of things. Now you can cash out where you couldn't before in the beginning. A lot of other little things they were going to work on to fix. Like when you land, it always asks you later or buy now. Well, if you've got Globits, why are you asking me to buy them?
Good point. Yeah, good point.
He said they were going to try to fix that from the little blog or whatever. I saw that on that they were going to try to fix that. So if you have Globits, it won't ask you to buy them when you already have them. That's kind of like a little bug.
Yeah, I tell you about. I was on my local Outworlds grid on my computer earlier, and I hypergridded to look for stuff. I forget which grid it was. I think it was OS grid or somewhere. And I got something I haven't had for a while, which is that blasted annoying thing here. It's like a freebie, but it's set to buy, and you click buy, and it loads the second that you need lindens. I thought that's great use out here. They got that a bit wrong. And it wasn't naught lindens either. I think it was about 10 lindens, but naught OS currency. Who knows?
But how would you, even if you try to buy, you couldn't, because
you can't.
No, it's not connected in any way, shape, or form. So
exactly. It's the most stupid box to pop up anywhere, really. But there you go. The vagaries of some simulators. But Globis is also. I don't know whether it's space or high fidelity. I know one of those, for example, you can use a Globits there too. And obviously, goods aren't interchangeable between the platforms. But the idea that you have a Globits kind of wallet, and it will serve you. It's like having a virtual world's PayPal account, isn't it? Where you can use the money in whichever virtual world you want to. Or game, in fact, I believe is in some games as well.
It'd be kind of silly to buy something you can't take with you if you don't belong to that grid, though. Kind of silly, wouldn't it?
Well, if you've got a home in both grids and
Oh,
one
okay, that's different.
and one wallet, I suspect it doesn't amount for much. It simply means that you might go to a completely different platform somewhere and find that Globits is the currency in pay, and the fact that you've got a Globits account already is useful. But you're quite right. I mean, I can't imagine buying anything for myself that isn't for use in OpenSim. On the hypergrid, because all I want in other places is maybe a studio, and I like the idea of being on the web with Space and Cyber Lounge, because technically I could do a show and I could post a link to it and get people to come to the audience via the web instead of actually logging in with a kind of client. But at the moment, it's not like you can put OpenSim itself on the web quite yet. So all these things tend to be, they interconnect in some ways, but not in others. Have you, you mentioned, I think it was before we came on there, that you principally are a builder. So, when you hear about these other platforms and stuff, it's not really you think, oh, I'm a builder, they're no good to me. But
it's my understanding, the Second Life, that you have, this is only my understanding, it doesn't mean it's true, but my understanding that you have to be qualified mesh builder to bring into the new SL. You have to be actually verified first.
Yeah, I think so.
Hello.
I think Linden Labs, shall we say, might. I'm not quite sure they're advised. I don't know what Sansar is called. Will have, by the way, in the way of in-world building tools. Probably not.
None.
Not any real building tools, but maybe you'll be able to arrange your furniture and stuff like that. That's certainly the case with Space. The problem with what Linden Labs are building is you can work in Maya and all these advanced programs and upload stuff, which is what the creators they've got in there are doing at the moment. But as you say, it's an uphill work. You can't just learn to use prims. I mean, in Space, they give you a sort of micro suite of Unity tools. So. Adam was actually telling me that one of the attractions there is that if you don't know how to use Unity, which most of the builders would need, you can learn to use the basic Unity tools whilst you're in world using the micro palette of tools. So if you then decide, you want to move to more advanced, you at least will have learned a bit of Unity in the process, in a way that resembles prims and stuff like that.
Can you see a second Sansar or whatever it's called doing that?
Well, the problem with Sansar, as opposed to Space, as I see it, is that their engine is completely unique to them. Whereas something like Space, at least it is using a common engine, i.e. Unity. Doesn't connect to OpenSim, but at least it's a very familiar engine to people. What Linden seemed to be telling people is you've got to be a good mesh builder in something like an advanced system like Maya, and then you can upload what you've done into Sansar.
And they're going to charge you.
Yeah, and Sansar really becomes just a light viewing and an activity destination. And it isn't from what I gather, it is not a world. Like Second Life or OpenSim, it is simply spaces that you can teleport between, but you can't walk or fly between. They're not interconnected. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. It does keep getting delayed, and they do say the public beta is on track for in about a month's time. But it's been, I think the original date was this time last year. So it's not moving actually as fast as they planned.
I've also heard that you can't at the old Second Life, or Second Life as it is today, the support and all the other things that you used to get normally, they basically cut those off. When you want to get something done, or go put a ticket in and stuff, you're being ignored, and customer support is just terrible.
Well, I suppose the argument there is if Sansar is as limited as it sounds, nobody's going to need their support anyway.
Well, for the old SL, are they going to fade that out, or are they going to?
Really?
Or are they going to just shut the doors one day and say, "Here you go, Bob"?
I don't know. I do, publish Second Life destinations. I don't go in there that much. I sometimes on my other machine log in Radagast just to check up on messages and see it's nothing important. But I've noticed in a couple of blogs, there've been things about changing this, the cash out terms for people wanting to get money out, and there always seems to be some little drama going on in Second Life that bears on Linden Labs doing something or other or doing that. I'm not the impression that a great deal has sort of changed there. I mean, their argument for, I don't know about support, I have to admit. I should probably ask Tara. She's a support ticket registered person. But certainly, I think the argument is money laundering and stuff like that. So they want to institute delays on cash outs and stuff like that. And I'm never sure whether it's to do with serious legal ramifications or whether it just they want to keep the money in the bank a bit longer and get the interest. It's sort of, it's a bit beyond me. But actually, all the even space, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks, but they hold on to your money before you can cash it out. Simply,
wow.
Well, it's like a credit card thing. They don't want to get into the liabilities thing of having to refund people. So if you they want that, they want to allow that leeway time for virtual goods to just make sure that they apparently screen for privacy when you're uploading. But occasionally, something might get through and it might be sold and somebody might come back with a takedown notice. And they just don't want to have coughed up the money to the creator before they actually notice the creator, But I mean, I imagine that. I imagine that's practical with any grid that has a cash out system.
But I think you'll see a big flood once they shut the doors on SL. If they actually shut it or just fade it out so slowly that next thing you know, there's SR, or they give you the two options. Because I can't see Second Life giving up millions of dollars with a door shut down.
No. I think
I know they're going to get sued in so many ways, because how many people have been there since the beginning and spent thousands and thousands of real dollars on clothing, skin, hair, buildings, artifacts, tables, whatever, and then they just pull the plug? Wow.
Oh, it would be insane. I think legally they can, but if they were losing money, but I can't imagine they would. They've always said that Sansar is a new platform, and that it's an option. It's not an alternative to Second Life, which is probably, from what I gather, is probably very accurate. I think they want something that's a bit more future-proof and maybe attracts a greater audience, but maybe not the real creator collaborator audience of Second Life. And I think they will keep the two running simultaneously. I imagine that when Sansar goes public, they will use Second Life to promote it. They'll be telling everybody in Second Life, come and see our new thing. But having spoken to people who are still in Second Life, the same thing that stops them coming out of Second Life to OpenSim is probably the same thing that will stop them moving to Sansar. They'll probably open a Sansar account and have a look around, but I can't see, I can't see them leaving Second Life. On the other hand, there are people who are in Second Life who just buy things and have a little bit of land. They're living in a small flat in the inner city and they've got a big estate with a yacht in Second Life. Mm-hmm. It's kind of escapism. And if Sansar can offer that, even though you won't be able to build yourself, if it allows you virtual goods and that kind of thing, then maybe some of the Second Life audience will go to Sansar. I mean, the attraction, from what I gather, is again a bit like space. You can actually have a continent which has very little weight on the server, any more than a small island with a house on it. Obviously, the stuff you put down in it and upload into it, that is weight on the actual servers. But land itself and geographic area doesn't really count. And unlike OpenSim and Second Life, where you need a certain amount of server space to run a region, the mesh regions you get in these things are just lightweight. The whole region is like a little object itself until you put stuff on it. And it's how big it is in a sense in its description rather than any kind of physical volume, if you like.
I wonder what they're going to charge for those things.
Well, Airbnb Oldberg said that the idea is to keep land at that charge almost nothing for land. In other words, you can get your own place in there, but almost for free. What they clearly want to do is take the idea of the Second Life marketplace and really push up the transactions of virtual goods, like taking a major commission on virtual good transactions. I think space is very much the same there. They want people to upload things, put them in shops, and they will simply take a commission on everything that's sold, because that, I think, is probably in many ways where from Second Life they can see a fairly expanding market. It will depend on how many users they get, of course, but if they attract more and more users and they're taxing quite literally all the economy, then that's where they make their money. They don't need to worry about land.
But isn't that how Second Life started out in the beginning, giving away basically free land you paid for your prims?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in Sansar, I guess there won't be any prims any more than there are in space, but there will be a weight involved in things like objects you buy. So presumably, a mesh costume you might put on your avatar probably doesn't have any notable weight, but a mesh dining table and settee you put down in your personal space probably will have some weight. So they'll want to charge you for that. I imagine what they would do if they got any sense, business-wise, is on the back end, it would probably cost them practically nothing. But they'll find it. But they, as a business, they will want to charge you, like they do in Second Life, for everything they can possibly tax. Basically, that seems to be the modus operandi of Linden Labs. Really, is to marketplaces used to be separate, so they brought them up to integrate them, so they now control them, just like they control the walls around the world. There's no aspect of Second Life that isn't solely controlled by Linden Labs, whereas other platforms allow independent operators into sections of it. High Fidelity makes deals with other operators to sell photographic avatars and things like that. They operate as separate companies. Hi-Fi just provide a linkage. Space, I imagine, from what I gather too, could do the same thing. They could link you into sub markets, as it were, that actually operate, that are actually separate companies, not sine wave. And here in OpenSim, we know, you've got the Kitely market, which is not the Kitely grid, but it's an independent operator that can deliver to any number of different grids. And you have things like OpenSim World, where you can go to check destinations and stuff, and all that operates from a back end that is not stuck in any one of our grids. We can all get to it regardless of the grid we're on. So, there's that interoperability. Obviously, Grid X, say Great Canada Grid here, obviously wants to get more residents. It obviously wants to cultivate a social world of its own, and it likes to promote that and advertise it. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't interconnect via the hypergrid, or that it doesn't support, as we said, Globus currency. That you can't put down an OpenSim world thing. The interoperability is there, and I have a feeling that both Sansar, like Second Life, are going to be with internal ecosystems to Linden Lab, and that interoperability with outside things will probably not be there. I can't speak for Sansar. I have never been in there, and everything I know about it is hearsay. So, but all the indicators are that it will be like that.
Well, is it also that you have to be wearing virtual glasses to be in there, Sansar?
No. That is a problem in high fidelity. They're so obsessed with headsets and devices that I think they may be neglecting people who want a 2D screen. But Sansar, I think, will be you'll be able to use it in a headset.
Mm-hmm.
But rather sensibly, I gather the world itself will be usable in a lot of different ways. I mean, which I personally think is the right thing. I mean, if a world comes along and the only way I can go in there is in a headset, I'm not going to use it. I only ever go to high fidelity for the odd meeting and things because I can use it on a 2D screen, not as well as in a headset. And space is fine because it will work in headsets if you want, but it's primarily the world has been built as a world with content, and what you choose to go into it with is really not the business of the world. The world simply has to be adaptable. So if I could put on a headset and watch this stage now in 360 degrees, not that there is anything behind us in the audience, then I could do so, but it shouldn't be a requirement of the world. You're not going to in the next decade, nobody is going to be able to launch a big social world that needs you to stick a blooming great helmet on. Maybe in a few decades' time, the things will be feather light in the size of glasses, and they won't be such an encumbrance. But it's like 3D TV. People do not sit around in sitting rooms with their friends with their bloody 3D glasses on just so the screen looks like it's got more depth. They do for a while, then the novelty wears off. And gamers, sure, they like their headsets because they've always liked their triple monitors and their vibrating chairs and everything else that gets with the gaming rig. But they're not casual users. And outside of the home, game arcades are going to have get a lot of mileage out of VR because people are going to go in, to gaming arcades and pay their money at the door for a 20-minute VR experience, which for many people is probably more than enough. Because I can't wait to get out of the headset. After I give I get desperate to get it off after about 4 minutes. Is my estimation.
Well, Maria sent me one, and I tried it, and I went, "Oh heck no!"
Yeah.
I look stupid sitting here with that thing on my head, for one thing.
But
if anybody walked in, they go, "What are you doing?"
And there was a post. There was a post. You see it on the web again now, and it must be about 2 years now. But it was at some conference that Zuckerberg did. Probably after they bought Oculus, and there were, I don't know, about 200-300 people in the audience, and the picture shows Zuckerberg walking down the aisle to the stage. Every single person in that damned audience has been kitted out with a helmet. And it looks so dystopian. The only human being in sight is Zuckerberg, ? And everybody else is like a robot with a helmet on. And you think, is this the future? You show that photograph to somebody 30 years ago. And they probably have thought,
UFOs.
that is not any kind of future we want. It's like the Matrix, we just wired up into. So we don't want to get the very things that virtual worlds empower us to do, the freedom they give us to create, socialize, and everything else, is great because it's an auxiliary to real life. If you see what it is, an augmentation. I don't think many people in the world are actually seeking an exile in virtual reality. It's something that augments. It's a communications and sharing space that augments our reality. And I don't know. I just have visions of like an elite lot of gamers who are too big to get out of their front door, wearing.
There already is, trust me.
Yeah, they're wearing kit. 3 times as big still, and maybe eventually they'll have a big mechanoid robot, that's like out of Star Wars, where they're actually sitting in that, and they'll pull a lever, and the artificial legs will go up, and they'll step out through their ceiling to go shopping.
Maybe
but then again, a drone will probably land the shopping on their head.
Like way back in the old days, where everybody was scared about the machines taking over humans. It's getting pretty close, I'd say. When you have to wear a headset to watch virtual eyes or whatever, I think me sitting in front of my computer with my 2D screen, I'm happy. It's like mesh. Mesh is nice. It's nice to look at, but I'm not going to learn it. I'm just over that.
I was talking to somebody at High Fidelity on what was it? Well, no, it would have been Friday. In the audience after the Q&A had finished, and I got the impression that all but maybe one other person in the room, was in a headset or something, and the test to me was, I don't like that full immersion, because I said, okay, right, pleased to meet you. You're in a headset. I can shake your hand and all that stuff. I'm sure it's all very cool. What's moving around in your real world environment at the moment? I don't know. Got my headset on. Can you hear anything? No, I've got my headphones on. And there's a brilliant clip on YouTube somewhere which I think said it all. It's cleverly filmed. A guy comes home and he sits down and puts his 3D helmet on and emerges in a game, and they show you the game as he goes into the game. It appears as a window in a window, so you see him playing the game. But what actually happens in the video is that some thieves come through the window, they nick all this furniture. He can't hear them, he can't see them. He comes out of the game after 2 minutes, and he's sitting in an empty room. The only thing that's left is his helmet and his chair. His big TV, his furniture, everything in the blasted house has been nicked by the thieves who came in the window. And, that scares me, because, I would dread to think that I can't hear somebody smashing my door down or coming in and saying, would you like a cup of tea? How, it's, I think there is a bit of, apprehension about this.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, you're right. I'm like you. I mean, the 2D screen really is enough for me. I mean, if somebody gives me a 180-degree screen that I can kind of curl around my body a little bit.
Yeah, that would be different.
That's okay. It's like having 3 monitors tilted,
Yeah.
But I want to hear what's going on behind me, and I definitely want to see what's approaching me. Thank you.
I guess I will move on to another subject now, because we're making fun of SL and stuff. It's time to move on. Yeah. Tangle is coming up to 4-year birthday.
Oh,
July 7th. We are going to be open 4 years. So we're going to have a beach party.
Very good.
And me and as a DJ. Everybody loves me. You guys remember me. I know you do. And we're going to have some fun. So please come on over. Hypergate over. Starts at 10 a.m. game time. And it'll just keep going. There is no closing time. If you're there, we'll keep going. So party will never stop.
10 a.m. That's 6 p.m. for us, isn't it? So we're
something like that. Yeah.
We're sort of starting evening time, our time. That's a good time. That's a good time.
Well,
people are still around.
The Europeans, and then we're going to roll into the Americans, and then come out with the Aussies, and then come back.
Yeah, the Aussies come in for breakfast the next day. He does to round off things. I love that about virtual worlds. I mean, and what is so funny is dealing with some people, myself included, who really just end up adopting such unorthodox hours. I'm on British afternoons, which gives me the whole American daytime, but I'm not on American evening time, because it's a sort of compromise, and but I'm used to it. I'll deal with people in Australia. and I'll be talking to them, and I'll suddenly click that it's about 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning. I say, "Have you just got up early, or haven't you gone to bed yet?" You know, because they always seem to be available. And actually, what happens is they make themselves available at the times when they're most likely to be wanted. So, you know, who knows what they're sacrificing in real world hours. Yeah.
I get up at 4 in the morning every day.
Yeah, 4 a.m. is about.
I have to.
That's my bed. That's my bedtime.
Oh no! Because I get up at 4. I deal with T-Mac because he's in South Carolina, so we do our administrative work, our server work, and all that stuff. Yeah. Then I go and have my lunch. Then I go and have a cat nap. Then I get back up and do the European side of things, and then I get off game about 7 o'clock my time p.m. And then I go to bed, well, have supper, then go to bed, and then get up at 4 again every day.
Except for the rare occasions when somebody drags you to do a television show at 8 p.m.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I do it for you, Mel. I do it for you, Mel.
I didn't know, honest.
That
is so funny. That is so funny because it does make perfect sense. And in the same, I'm in the same time zone as you, but I just do it in the exact opposite. So funny. Whatever works, I guess, is the idea.
Oh, yeah, as a grid owner, you got the weirdest hours because you need to be there. You need someone there. And right now, I not at the point where I can trust someone to do my job.
Yeah.
At this point, because you don't know the person on the other end. I'm sorry to say that, but you know, you get burned so many times that you just say, okay, that's enough. I'll just do it myself, and that way I know it's done.
Yeah.
And I don't miss anything. And if, like, we don't allow anybody into our servers except me and T, so if a region goes down or something goes wrong, it's just me and him. So
yeah.
And you can't trust anybody. You see so many times in the hybrid business news how so and so stole this from me and this and that and this.
Oh
and
yeah.
And please, you know, it's your own fault.
Yeah, and people, you know, they get together to start grids, and before you know it, there's a battle of the CEOs kind of thing, and I'm going to go off and start this one, I'll start that one, and you're never really quite sure what's going on. I mean,
too many hands in the pie.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people, I must admit, I deal with, not this show, for example, but you know, I'm fortunate enough since 11, 12 years ago, joining Second Life. I mean, I have in Britain, but also through conferences and things, I have back in the day met an awful lot of the people, you know. I do, and that actually makes a very big difference because meeting them virtually, you can actually get to know somebody pretty well. But you know, it's not the same as the organic handshake and you know, a good old natter over a coffee or drink or something like that, and just getting to know them. You know, it's the things you wouldn't dream of discussing and things in what is a task environment like Open Single Second Life, whereas when you meet them socially, you get into all sorts of conversations that tell you a lot more about them that they probably won't reveal virtually. And avatars especially, I mean, anonymity is good in some ways, but you know, it can be taken to the extreme. You know, you could never, you know, that avatar who wants to be your estate manager, well, yeah, who are you? And who are you in real life, and what do you do in real life? You know, blank. You know,
I'm a prisoner in Folsom, and I'm in for child molestation.
Yeah, and I was interested in your estate because it's got lots of beaches with half-naked women. Most of them look very young.
Sitting there taking snapshots. You know?
I don't think we better not go to that one, but yeah, exactly. you could really never be 100% sure. No. Yeah.
But IW had a good idea when about a couple of years ago, about 3 now, or is it when they had that meeting in Las Vegas? I think it was. And they invited everybody to it, and what's his name got married on the there as well. That's when Alan and her 2 cronies there were discussing all the different improvements IW had to offer and blah blah blah. I think they had about 60 people there or something. For 3 days or 2 days or so. This still YouTube is still online. everyone.
Well, of course, Second Life community conventions going way back, and yeah, there's never been a real life open sim one since really. I did go to one quite big meetup, which had the original guys from Reaction Grid, and Adam Frisbee was there, and a whole load of people who are now scattered all over the place and have moved on, which was actually in London. And, you know, it meant I'd, you know, touch wood with, you know, a whole load of people who have now emigrated from Britain. But, yeah.
They should have an American one for OpenSim and a European one.
I think so.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we got the virtual equivalent with OSCC, but I was talking to, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, I was talking to Thursday Ember the other day, and we really wanted to put on something that is deliberately not American centric. Because we saw that we've got grids like Franco Grid, Metropolis, the German grid, of course. There's another big German grid. There's Greek Life Grid. There is Craft Grid, which of course is based in Italy. And a lot of these grids, as you would expect with a name like Franco Grid, for example, you know, have regional users. You know, people in France are possibly more likely to be on Franco Grid than they are in Second Life, or you know, Second Life, it doesn't really count in that respect. But you will rarely see, you know, you take something like OSCC, which it has a bit of a swing towards education, even though it's not really an educational conference. But you get presenters and things, and it's all in English, which I suppose in some ways it has to be, unless although we can set up translation. But you actually rarely see people demonstrating things that are being done on, say, Franco Grid or Metropolis. OS Grid, yeah. And, you know, other grids that are English-speaking, principally English-speaking grids. But there's a whole lot out there on the hypergrid and using OpenSim that is kind of international. And we were talking and thinking, you know, maybe there should be a special day a week beforehand, which is like an OSCC international day. Or maybe there should be something separate that really is like a hypergrid, international hypergrid expo, where we actually make a point of going to some of the grids that you know, are non-English speaking, to try and see what's going on there and bring them into something like that. You know, Inworld, we can set up translators easier. It's just, as James will attest, televising such things will not be quite so easy. But, you know, it's in terms of the actual events itself, you know, sort of, I remember, you know, some of these real world conferences I went to in London a few years back. They really were a lot at one point. They were all very international. People from Second Life would be flying over. People from other companies be coming over. And, you know, it might have been in London, but the people you were meeting there were from, you know, every conceivable country, you know, America, Europe, Australia. You know, I guess they were all of an ilk of people who could just hop on the plane and afford to fly over, you know, but, you know, which isn't the everyday user. But, you know, nevertheless, you know, it was, you know, you got a feel for the international nature of these platforms because as a rule, they're not national. You know, there's, I'm sure Theresa May would love to have have UK grids only for UK people or something similarly, because she hasn't got an understanding of what she's talking about when it comes to these things. But you know, the message even from, you know, the sort of California firewall of Second Life has always been a bit of internationalism in that message. It's kind of internationalism the American way. But, you know, there've been diplomatic outreach things and cross-cultural things. And, you know, you always feel that kind of they're being held in America, but at least they're there. You know, there is that international, you know, community really present. But let's get back to Tanglegrid. Do you, your users, do you have a wide range of nationalities from what you can gather? I don't know how much you...
British, Finnish, Scottish, lots of the Americans and Canadians. Got it all. Dutch, German, mostly European. But the American side is starting to pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not there like all night, so that's why I switched my hours to be there a little bit more American, because there's no one there to help them or get them situated.
Yeah, I'm sure that is a...
I think
that's kind of... I like hypergridding around, and I actually quite like it when there's nobody anywhere, because I can just browse around and sort of concentrate on exploring. But
we have a thing that tells us when a new user is coming in.
Yeah.
And I won't go jump in their face. What I do is I know they're coming because it tells me, and then I'll send them a friendship request or just an IM and say, welcome to Tanglegrid. If there's anything you need help with, just give me a shout. And I leave them be, and they know that I'm there just in case.
And is that for everybody who visits via the hypergrid kind of thing?
No, not hypergrid, just new users.
Oh, just new users on the grid itself, right?
If you're a hypergrid, you pretty much know where you want to go and what you're looking for, or whatever.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
If you're experienced enough to know how to use the hypergrid.
Very true.
I've got some SL people that I had to explain yesterday, fresh out of SL, to OpenSim.
Yeah.
He handed me a building. He was so proud he made this building. He handed me the building, and it had 10 by 10 squares in the roof and the floor. I said, you do know you're in OpenSim, and you can go 128 by 128. He said, no, I didn't know that. Because he's so used to building in SL where you're limited on the size of the building because you can't link over so many square meters, and your cubes can only be, unless you have a mega prim, they call them mega prims.
Oh, so hang on, what he offered you was too small?
Well, he
big?
thought 10 by 10 roof, that means he had about 25 squares in the roof.
Oh, and it could
because
just
he thought he couldn't go any, because he didn't
Yeah.
think he'd go for 10 by 10. So he automatically made them 10 by 10. And he made the building small enough because he knew he couldn't, in the SL, couldn't link over certain distance. So I explained to him there is no distance limit to make a complete link set, to link the building together, like SL has. And you can use up to 128 by 128 prim for the roof. You don't need to put 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 to make a roof. I got the building back the next day, and it was like 5 prim instead of 86 prim or something. Because he didn't know. So he made individual windows because he didn't think he could stretch.
You could stretch, you can. Do you know that? Well, this is of course the non-builder in me. I didn't realize. I never actually really occurred to me. I've obviously tried doing the old thing in Second Life, but I've really only done stuff in here. I didn't have land and space in Second Life to play. But now that I've got an Outworlds region offline, I've just sort of started dumping stuff on, because it's cheaper than expanding Canada. I scaled a great, I've got like it's a 4x4 VAR region, 16 regions. And the ground, if I'm not happy with the turf form, the ground can be a whole single prim. I just scaled it. I don't think I did cover the entire region, but I mean, I was in map mode dragging it and thought, the feeling of being able to drag the land for miles and miles.
Yeah, because you set up that you have unlimited prim limitations. So you can make 500 by 500 if you want to, if you have that turned off.
Yeah,
but in Tango, for our residents, it's 128 by 128.
Yeah. Oh yes. Obviously, if you run a commercial grid and you've got residents, you've got to manage that stuff. So, but no, it's not so much that obviously I can do things offline that a commercial online grid can't. But it was just the fact that you can do it. Very satisfying.
But we have found with the older version of OpenSim, if you made a prim 256 by 256, to
Yeah.
cover a region, there were problems with it. The prim was unstable. So that's why we put it back down to 128 by 128. Cars would not drive on them well. It didn't like the 256 by 256. I don't know what the difference is because I'm not a techie, but you could not drive a car on that thing. It just tossed you off, or there was always something sink in it. This prim wouldn't come stable. So, and VARs is another thing. We limited our VAR sizes too because we found that most viewers are still not to the point where, you know, a 16 region is comfortable to most. Not all, but I'm saying most. So if you have a 16 VAR and you don't, that people coming to see that, has trouble with it, then you're not getting good commercial value out of that.
Yeah, so. I wouldn't have, you know, I went 4x4 just for me, and you know,
but you're using Firestorm.
And my partner Tara came in and had a look at it. She said everything was blisteringly fast, but of course, you know,
you're the only one running it,
and I've got all that land. There's nobody else on it, and at the moment, though I've cluttered it up immensely already somehow, it's still not, you know, it's not jam-packed with, you know, reasonable amounts of brims. So, but it's for me, you know, it's for me to dump stuff on, fiddle around, and, you know, I've got a big dome at one end of it, which has got nothing in it yet. I'm deliberately keeping it empty because everything that goes in there will be mesh, or will be, if I build it with prims or sculpts, everything in that dome is going to be sort of exportable as Collada, so that I can get a duplicate copy into a mesh world, if you see what I mean. And of course, is simplicity itself to, you know, build with prims, link them together the way I'm used to, and then save it as a Collada file with textures, and then take that into somewhere like Unity. And it doesn't look quite the same, but it's as good as makes no difference normally. And, you know, so long as it hasn't got scripts in it that are written in OpenSim scripting languages, then it can go to a completely different platform that supports mesh. It won't take the scripts because they mean nothing to that other platform, but the shapes, the mesh shape of the combined prims is, you know, I've got a copy of this stage set, for example, in space, and I could easily put it in high fidelity too, but it's got the logo, it's got the shape and everything else, but that's it. You know, the chair with the sit animations in it is going to be next to useless on another platform. What's it going to sit, you know? But swings and roundabouts, really. I'm quite...
Well, textures make a big problem too, because a viewer has to load everything.
Yeah.
So if you've got, like, I try to use 1 or 2 trees on every region, because if I put multiple trees, like tons of different trees, that viewer has to load that. That slows you right down. And so these are little tricks that you need to know. Like, try to use the same texture as much as possible on this in a region, because the less it has to load, the faster it will load, and the sooner you'll be moving.
And to be honest, you know, you can resize the trees to different heights and things.
Yeah, of course.
Most of
tear the trunk off and make it a bush or whatever.
It actually looks better too. When I uploaded an OAR file from Third for Outworlds as well, you know, one of the first corner of the VAR file, it's like a little lakeside thing. I don't know who created it. It wasn't Third himself. So he's populated it with critters. And it's strange, you know, within 2 yards of each other, I've got way rich inland sort of trees. They're not mesh, so they've got too many brims. But next door to them, it's got tropical trees and stuff. And I'm never in the world do you find an environment with that differing foliage in the same place. It just doesn't happen. And it looks odd, you know. How can I be in a nice little sort of, you know, far away from the beach in a wood, and then I walk 2 yards and I'm suddenly next to a lake, not a beach, with with palm trees and stuff. It doesn't gel.
No,
you know. So there's only, you know, you can have some. I forget the names of trees. You know, you can have some oaks and some other things that tend to grow where oaks grow. And you can duplicate them and resize them, but you really don't want to bring in a palm tree.
Or you
Or
even
a
you
willow.
merge it. Like you start out with forest, then you go with maybe some tropical plants of some sort that look kind of tree-ish, and then you gradually go into the palm with sand.
Yeah.
You know, kind of gradually degrade it. Grade it.
Oh yeah, I do.
Not just bang, there you go, Bob, because you're going, okay, this isn't right.
Yeah. No, I do that. I'm very fond of making mesh and sculpty terrain bits of sort of mountains and hills because, I figure you're in a nice little wooden vale somewhere inland with no sign of water. You walk up the hill, you've got a different display on top of the hill, and then you walk along a few miles and down the other end, I'm at the beach, and it's tropical.
That you could do. That happens. It's like that. So.
Yeah, it's like down in Canada here, the whole bill was originally like microenvironments. I thought, I can't have, an extensive wood and garden that is the size of a real wood. But I've got a house and I got some lavish, colourful flowers in a very English-like garden, and then that gradually becomes wood, and as you go deeper, it becomes a bit foresty. But it all happens within a brief walk across the sim. But the idea was that I would then just put, instead of having like Hypergate terminal to obvious grids and stuff like that, I would actually, in traveling the hypergrid, I might find a region somewhere that is all woodland and just spectacular example of a woodland region. And I would sneak a hypergate into my wood on the basis that people will walk through the hypergate and they'd be going to a completely different grid. They'd be off my radar by then, but they would be moving somewhere that is like an extension of what I had in mind, a bit like in the days that you go to a web and you, if you still read blogs, you will go to somebody's blog and they've got a blog roll. My blog roll in 3D is hypergates. In other words, if you're coming to my forest website, then the blog roll shows all my favorite forestry links. Whereas if you come to my Star Trek website, my blog roll is Star Trek sites. And so I tend to think of putting the hypergates down in various places using that kind of metaphor, so that it becomes an adventure. You don't quite know maybe where you're going to end up walking through the gate. Or but
it'll be the same theme.
It will feel like it walked out of one thing into a bigger version of the same thing. Yeah, the same thing.
That's
it
cool.
just seemed logical sort of way of doing things. And then obviously I can have some hypergates in the built up area too, and then everybody said, no, I want my hypergate there, I want my hypergate. And let's stay clear of all that, I'll do it by context, not get accused of favoritism or anything. But that was just a kind of way of doing it. I'd like to see that done more, even on inside grids. Like if I was in Tanglegrid and you were in a wooded region, there would be a jump port that went to another wooded region, or a region that was transitional between wood and something else. So you almost had a environmental storytelling in the way you would move from region to region via gates. Because it just because when people start dwelling around in a region, they like that kind of stuff or that feel. So offering something else extends that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, suddenly this show is me talking instead of you.
I'd let you have some time.
Yes, this is what happens. I want one guest, and James is very busy operating cameras. James, any thoughts on what we've spoken about so far, by the way, or any viewers commenting on anything about, for that matter?
No viewers today. I mean, we have not many viewers today. I think it must be the weather is striking. Oh, and in the United States, it's a holiday weekend.
Oh gosh, of course it is.
That's certainly probably having an influence as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They'll catch up in the week. They always do. Right. They seem to get more.
I just mentioned I'm on here. What I do is when I leave here, what I do is I post the link to the show Inworld.
Oh right, great.
So that they go back and they watch the YouTube and see if I got booted off or I got bad mouthed in the press, or that sort of stuff.
You want me to boot you off and create some drama for your residents?
That seems to work for Yo-Yo Group. The Yo-Yo Grid, I don't know.
Oh, God.
We were talking the other week there. We were saying, how are these grids making things work? And it all boils down to somebody's got drama somewhere. So I said, we should cause some drama. And so we made a drama boxing ring. You got to come see that, Mel. We have a drama boxing ring, and there's going to be a contest. We even have a board up there. We almost finished it. And you can actually get 2 people in a ring, and you can vote on who's got the best drama.
Wow.
I'm serious.
Boxing. So what, they have a debate on audio instead of boxing, or they do a bit of boxing too?
Well, they'll have gloves. They will have HUDs, so they can show the different emotions, like shaking their finger at somebody or blah blah blah, and then they can voice as they want. But we have it that the arena is big, so what happens is if you type in local, it will spread it even past the talk range, shout range. It will go the whole region, because the chairs are far away from the ring. So you only have 25 meters before your local chat doesn't work anymore. So we got these magnifiers, or magnifiers, whatever you call them in English. So you type in local, it goes to the whole region.
Right.
So amplifiers.
And we have amplifiers. So we got seating areas. We got a bar there. We got the boxing ring. We got the scoreboard up there. Who's doing the best, and people vote. The people in the audience can, just like a contest almost.
Yeah.
Who's doing the best arguing, drama, fighting, whatever.
Isn't there something like that in rap also, where they have
not a clue.
I think it's almost like insulting. They try and insult each other the best, and the audience. Audience will vote on who did the best insult.
There are obviously rules, like racial kind of stuff calling, but we're hoping it's going to be just good, clean fun, and then people, I saw you out with so and so last night. Oh, you're dreaming, and just garbage drama stuff, Because people seem to thrive on that crap. I don't understand.
Yeah, it just you reminded me of a couple of things actually, but particularly it just reminded me that back when I was Second Life, this is which is where I did the original Crossworlds show. I'm thinking of reviving, but we had a show there, which was me and Slim Warrior and Deucey Dragon Ash, called Grumpy Old Avatars.
There you go.
And I was never really comfortable with it or happy with it. I don't know why, but it was the singular most popular show I've ever done.
Oh, funny.
People poured in every Friday night to hear the Grumpy Old Avatars trying to be grumpy, because half the time, my instinct was to have a show a bit like Inworld Review, but make it a comedy, so we made witty comments about things and moaned about things. And, just constant moaning. And there was a BBC program called Grumpy Old Women and Grumpy Old Men followed
I've
it.
seen
and stuff.
Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah, so Slimmy, who thought of it first, I think, wanted it to be like that. And Doozer, with British TV, immediately knew what it was. But, I was a figure in the middle between the two of them. And, I half the time I just couldn't be funny. And I couldn't even be grumpy. But, it was just the concept of the thing, I think. People flooded in every Friday night,
For a good example, I would try to get, let's say, and boys don't get mad, it's just an example. I would put like Winter and Adam One Time on that stage, or in that ring, and let them go. Because it would take 5 hours to get them off there, and I'd have to actually physically kick them off, I think, eventually. But what I'm saying?
I can think of a few people I've had on this show.
And you would laugh. You'd be sitting in the audience, and you'd be laughing because these two fools are up there arguing about things that are not important to anybody.
I know. I had to do a podcast once with a guy who worked for Metaverse TV. He wasn't a broadcaster or something. It was just like on their radio stream. You know, it was supposed to be TED Talk or something. And I knew from the start it wasn't going to work because I couldn't get anything out of him. You know, he could not have a conversation with this guy. And when he did speak, it was something that just didn't connect. And I don't know what Diesel was thinking when she put us two together. I don't know. In that case, I don't think anybody did hear it. So,
like in Hyper Business News, this girl jumped all over me in Hyper Business News because of a picture.
Oh, that was something that was bugging me.
I thought,
got the comments.
You know, and then eventually I said, mine. It was mine there. It said, just ignore them. They're just trying to get you going. I said, it's so stupid, though.
Yeah.
It's so stupid that people complain about something that irrelevant. I said, where's your grid? Let me go over there for a day, and I can pick out things that you embarrassed. You know, because I can't. I bet you there's not one grid, and I don't care what grid it is, that there isn't a copy-bought item there somewhere. And mine wasn't copy-bought. It was, you know, and there was no copyrights on the picture. I checked all that, just like for Tangle Tagger. That's our new mascot, by the way. It's Tangle Tagger. And I checked to make sure that Tony the Tagger and the Texical Tagger was not the same as those taggers. Because I agree with keeping copyright where it belongs. You know, they spend a lot of money for that. Even Maria mentioned it to me. I said, it's fine, Maria. I checked. The word GR, grr, is not copyrighted. Only the taggers. She was worried about that when I made the ad for the Hyper Business News. I said, no, I checked. But they were all over me. They were all over me about that stupid picture. I've changed it because I don't need the drama, but
yeah,
I wasn't gonna. But the boy said, "Oh, come on, let's let it go." I said, "No, it's the point of it. Any fool can come to my grid and don't like something, and next thing you know, I'm the biggest asset, you know, in the grid because I said no." And this went on for I don't know how, and it had something to do with regions. It had nothing to do with the picture. And that's why I think Hyper Business News kind of lost focus. Whoever's moderating those conversations should actually say, hey guys, you know, that's got nothing to do with this particular story.
I know that was driving Maria up the wall. In fact, I suppose she didn't just
put her hands up in the air and said, "That's enough now."
Block the comments completely, you know, because people will. You just can't.
Oh, they just keep going. Alex, he's just you can't.
Well, you know, I'd read these things, you know, where somebody will make an inappropriate comment or something time wasting. Somebody else will reply quite sensibly, you know, you're time wasting. We don't want to hear that here, and that would actually trigger yet another comment.
Oh yeah,
you know, more, you know,
blah, 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 blah,
yeah. Here, oh, there's my excuse to reply with more of an argument. Yeah.
It has no, you know, there's name calling. There's. And then we had the story. You guys just had a story about how the degrading people can be to women and all this other stuff. It hurts some. It doesn't hurt me because I stuck water off the duck's back, but that could hurt people. Some of the stuff come out with, you know. I don't understand why people need. I think they're just bored with their lives, or they get up in the morning. That's all they want to do. I don't know what's. They need help, assistance, drugs.
That's the word.
More
need
drugs,
help.
less
help. They need help, and it ain't virtual worlds.
And I'm not trying to be drama about it here, but I'm just saying that, you know, people. Maria tried her hardest to give you guys exactly what you wanted, and you still don't get it. That's a hard job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish her job on anyone, and that's the truth. I've seen her go through insults, and she is very professional about her answers. This thing about the guy with the stats, that's another thing. Why does it bother you guys so much that there's someone taking stats? What? It's to your benefit.
Yeah, and I saw something about that recently since Maria's left us, but Yeah, there was some
Miguel,
drama
what
about
was
some grids
his
that were
name?
trying to withhold stats, so you can get
Yeah,
them if you look, and they don't want their stats published. And I thought, what is
are
all
you
this?
afraid people are going to see that you're losing regions? Who cares? You're going to have an up and
Ah,
down time no matter what grid you are.
yeah.
Look at that big, beautiful Aviation. Where's it today?
What was that?
Aviation. Where's that today?
Come
The
again?
biggest.
Sorry, I was being
Yeah.
funny. I thought I was being funny. Yeah.
But you know,
Right.
it had the money, it had the people, but a grid is a grid.
Mm.
It's like any other business. Either you make it or you don't. Either you hang it or you don't. Either you like it or you don't.
I must say, Avination has actually seemingly left quite a legacy there. I mean, James on the news earlier was talking about, and it's the big task with OpenSim at the moment seems to be the merging with the Avination code, taking a very long while.
You
But
forget that.
well, they're doing it.
Yeah, but
About coming along slowly but surely.
I won't touch 9. I'm sorry, but I won't touch 9 with a 10-foot pole at the way it is now.
Okay.
There's just too many, still too many things. If you change 9, your database changes. You can't roll back.
Yeah,
So
and it's
you're screwed, for lack of a better word for it.
well, this offline thing of thirds seems to allow me to choose. But when I first set it up, I tried it with 9, and then I tried it with 8, and 8 seemed to be much better for me. Oh, and this is just offline, so.
Yeah, but the 9 on the open similar stick thing, that's why I call it. If you try to set up your classified ads, you try to set up your money, you try to set up search, you try to set up things that are normal for a commercial grid.
Yeah. And they don't. Oh dear.
Because OpenSim has always said we do not want money.
Yeah, they don't have a commercial brief.
They don't want
they're all volunteers. They want a working grid that is technically their
free
thing, but not for. Yeah, they don't. It's like OS Grid itself, you know.
That's what I'm talking about.
The developer's grid. It just follows its own rules, and you know they're on the hypergrid, but they won't have money. There's a whole load of things you get. You can't even have a suitcase on OS Grid, if I remember rightly. You know, it's just little things that vary from the norm, and you'd think a grid like that would be, you know, having everything in it and pioneering new stuff instead of blocking out stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know why they did that, because the whole idea for OpenSim is there's OS Grid. Sorry, OS Grid is free for all.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do, build as you want to build, go where you want to go, but no suitcase. Search doesn't work, not well, etc., etc., etc. So how do they want us to take that version and put it in my grid? Not going to happen.
How are you familiar with this new, I don't know what I call them, body I will call them, called the IMA, Immersive Metaverse Alliance?
I seem to have seen something about that, yes.
Yeah.
I've never visited there or anything.
Well, they have a few grids, but they're sort of test grids. They're not a commercial operation running grids. They've got things like an Ariba Sim grid, a Halcyon based grid, and various OpenSim type grids. Then they simply put them up there to test stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they've got the unenviable. They've got a lot of working groups, and they seem to be getting a lot of interest at the moment, of which I approve. I think they're very worried about accessibility, disability accessibility, and things like that. That's not their brief, but they come from a strong background there, and they all along they've tried to pull this together in a kind of way where they can really safely stay sort of neutral from the politics of OpenSim and survive ones. You know, and in fact, I gather the core developers, you know, do talk about them now and stuff. They're basically, you know, you have lots of volunteers like the core developers and things. Nobody can tell them what to do. They don't want to be paid because it compromises them and things will actually happen. Other people are off developing separately. because they have to for commercial grids or something like that. And these IMA did not really want to be involved in any of that variation. They just wanted, test grids and, the interoperability and whatever. And so far, they seem to have done a reasonable job of putting a lot of people together in an informal way, with working groups and things that, doesn't actually interfere with anything else that's going on already. It's almost like putting everything that's going on already into a monitoring system and then just trying to figure out what can be made to work best. So, nobody at IMA is throwing code at OpenSim core, saying do this, they're just, all these people will do what they want. And they're just really trying to make a bit of sense of all the issues, that come up there. And they seem to be doing a good job. It's one of the few. I've been to a few of their Q&As and working groups. I'm sort of technically one of their advisors committee, and I must say, it has been very pleasant to go to these meetings of diverse people without encountering, for the most part, any drama, as you said, because very often,
testosterone or whatever they call that, testosterone.
You try and get some dumb developers in a room where one is talking about Halcyon, one is talking about Ariba, one is talking about OpenSim Vanilla, they call it, and maybe somebody else is talking about a completely different platform, and usually you will end up with drama. I'm sorry. So it's actually quite interesting to sort of go to these Q&A sessions and hear from working group reports where there seems to be, fortunately for the moment, at least none of that there. So
I just want to say this little 2 cents before we go off air. People that are listening to me speak and ask these crazy questions and say these crazy comments is because I've been asked to ask Mel, because we find Mel very informative. And before you cut me in half like you did with the Firestorm thing in a big chat room somewhere, like I saw, was open. They went after me bad over the Firestorm thing, but oh well, here we go. I'm only asking these questions because people ask me to ask. So don't shoot the messenger, please.
No, I don't shoot the messenger.
No, not you. Them.
Oh, right, okay.
I said something about Firestorm pulling their heads out of their butts, and it went viral. Oh, lordy. I thought it was going to get shot. Sheesh.
That's just I'm trying to avoid drama. You can imagine maybe if I'd had, say, Eleanor from Inworld and Melanie and Jessica on with us today.
Do not put what's your name over there on please.
I don't know how many people realise, but when I'm putting these shows together, there is quite a balancing act. I might only end up with one guest, but believe me, it's better than having two guests that would have been tossing their weight right over my head.
Well, there are a few guests I would really have a hard time, and it's nothing against you, Mel. I would really have a hard time sitting quiet.
Yeah, well, I think it's
because they're either stupid, or they have no clue what they're talking about and misinforming people, or they cut someone down they don't need to be doing that.
So what, you said you had some questions for me?
No, I did them.
Oh. Right. Okay.
We're talking about and the things that were going to happen. Cesar, we thought that maybe you knew a little bit more than I did, because these are questions I get asked on my grid all the time, or by my friends, because they're afraid that they're going to end up penniless, closeless, inventoryless because of the new Cesar, because everything's mesh. They don't know how to build in mesh. They don't know what to do with themselves, because my understanding is they're going to lose it all.
I think that is one of the reasons I'm still very fond of OpenSim and have a lot of faith in it, even if it ends up being a backwater of sorts. In the great scheme of things, they're one of the original metaverses, if you like, at some future point, because people do invest time and less, sometimes money, but they invest time and very much a lot of themselves in the environment. And it's heartbreaking that would just fall out from under them. And obviously a few grids come and go on the hypergrid, and we'll end up moving on a bit. But if they've got a bit of warning, they can usually get their stuff to move it to across the hypergrid. Most stuff on they can get perms on most stuff. But you take somewhere like Second Life. I mean, if that's people. If people pull the rug out under there, I mean, that'd be heartbreaking for a lot of people. Because
the TOS specifies that Second Life owns it anyways.
Yeah.
So.
But it's like you say, it's that investment in time and energy that people have put in. They probably put real world money in to get Lindens to buy their clothes. They built things for themselves that they can't save because you're not allowed to export what is actually your own, even if it is your own.
Even a small texture, even a doorknob will stop the whole building from going.
Yeah. It's your world, your imagination, our bloody platform kind of thing.
Well, that's the beauty of OpenSim. You can get a hold of a creator, and you can move stuff around, people. So think that before you sign up for SL. Come on over to OpenSim and enjoy the freedoms that we have here.
Well, one thing I'm sure you'll agree with, we've mentioned it on quite a lot of shows, is something I've been much more aware of recently, and it may have a little bit to do with mesh creation, but not totally. And that is, I think a lot of creators who, whether they're working in Prims or maybe they've worked in Prims long enough that they have moved to, Sculpties and mesh and various different kinds of creation. But, it seems to me that, and it should be popular wisdom anyway, and that is build offline, deploy anyway. If you want to be able to build or create something and you come to OpenSim to do it, especially if you get an offline space of your own on your own computer, there's never going to be any doubt that it's yours and you've done it. And what's more, you're in a position to export it from OpenSim into things like mesh formats or deploy it to multiple places. So I can build a set in Prims. Now, I can then put a copy of that set on any other grid that invites me to have a studio there, or I take it with me. But, and because if I created it all, that is no problem to transfer it. But I can also export it, so long as it's, got the right kind of content. In other words, isn't for the scripts that only work in OpenSim. I can export it to Gallardo Mesh, and then I can import that into Meshworlds.
Right, but if you build a Prim house, we'll use a house for example. If you build a Prim house and the roof is a texture owned by someone else,
but that's where you have a problem.
Yeah, so you'd actually have to import that thing raw. Yeah, and texture it in that world to keep every copyright things all straightened out.
Yeah,
but if you get lucky, because what's her face? Oh, I wish no new name's better. Posts all the time. Maybe it's Iris. I can't remember which one it is. She posts all the time where you can get royalty-free textures, and that's not a problem. Stone. Keep an eye out for the royalty-free content 000 licensing, and then you got no problems. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of sites for that stuff.
And the one thing that is just so easy to do, maybe it's just me, I used to work with Photoshop a lot, but there's nothing easier than making your own texture. You can just take a webcam picture of a close-up of a leaf or a surface, and you can just make a four-way tile in Photoshop that flips it and mirrors it, and then you've got a ready seamless texture. And you can upload that, and it's completely original because you photographed it in real life. Or you can fiddle with it to make it prettier. It's I actually see textures in these texture shops and things, and I unpack them and they go in my inventory. I end up with thousands of textures, and then I got to go one by one to preview them, and half the time they are crap, is my word. I mean, they just
they gotta make that box look good. If they say 100 textures, they gotta give you at least 2 that are good out of the 100. So you think you got something good.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got to spend 5 hours going through the other 98, finding the two that are possible.
I have a texture board that I
Yeah,
can
I know.
select and delete, and it'll automatically delete the ones I want. But
Oh,
that's
I keep meaning to get one of those. Yeah, they did probably make life easier.
yeah. You just toss them all in there, then you go click, 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 and then hit delete, and then we'll pull them out of the texture board and gone.
Out of the inventory too, I hope.
If you're putting everything in the boards, like I have to put my textures in boards and get them out of my inventory, or I couldn't TP anywhere because I'd be so fully loaded. Like I'm talking thousands and thousands of textures, so and they count as one item in your inventory, so you want to get those out of there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because the higher your inventory is, the slower you are to move from region to region, because it has to take your inventory and transfer it to that region.
Yeah.
So the less you have in there, the better.
It affects the hypergrid too, because arguably your suitcase goes first, but I mean, your whole inventory arrives by shipping container.
Right. So I have a region, and on that region I box everything, and I get it out of my inventory, and then I save the region as a backup. So if I lose anything, I just bring that region back up, pick it up, or if I need it, like buildings and textures. And, oh lordy, I have to, because I had 75,000 before I cleaned my inventory over in Tango. Now I'm down to 11 because I got rid of my textures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you're a builder, that's a nightmare. You always got textures come out your ears. So.
I don't know. I've got over 100,000 items in my Second Life inventory. It's probably another reason.
That's another scary story.
Yeah. That's probably no reason I don't get it very often. I can't cope with my inventory anymore.
I'm surprised they put a limit on it. I thought they would have a limit on those. I thought they did, but it doesn't seem to hold. They say there's a limit, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's odd. I've always got the impression that my inventory can just get bigger and bigger and faster, and then
maybe when
it's only when I res them that they stop, counting for something. But I don't know why, And the worst thing is, of course, even in OpenSim, this avatar's library is pretty colossal too.
Oh my!
And even in the space of a few days, my offline one has gotten totally out of control already. I actually spent some hours this morning and last night filing, opening my inventory, creating subfolders, moving things to what they were and where they belonged, because I thought, if I don't remember to do this every time I go hypergridding and picking stuff up, I'm going to get the same old mess I've been in every other world.
That's why, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way, this is why I hate hypergame, because my suitcase is packed, and it takes me forever to get that thing cleaned out.
Yeah.
Because, there's such beautiful things on the hypergate, and they're giving them away, and I never sell anything that I pick up, because it's wrong. No. Yeah. But I use it. I use the trees for landscaping. I use the rocks. I use benches. That sort of stuff is my choice of preference to pick up, is trees, rocks, grass, that sort of stuff. And buildings not so much, because I can build my own, but that sort of stuff I'm really bad for. And animals is another thing I'm really I couldn't build an animal, my life depended on it. But
they're complex. I've actually got a pussycat on the Outworlds offline region, which is my avatar, and I could never have constructed that.
No.
But I got it somewhere. Yeah.
I hear that mesh avatar animals are really, really hard to make, because they have to be, I don't know what the words they were using. Rigged and something or other, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm looking for a avatar mesh. It can be mesh, sculpted, doesn't matter. Tiger? Yeah, not the one that walks around 4 legs. I mean like a Tony the Tiger type avatar.
Okay.
And I can't seem to find anybody. I posted OpenSim, I posted all over the place, and not having much luck.
I've seen, and to be honest, I've never picked up anything from these stalls, but I found a couple of stalls that At first glance, I thought they were furry stores for furries.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, when I went in them, they were animal avatars, but they were like cartoony. Not like not a nice furry realistic looking cat that I would wear. They would be like a human avatar with a cat face or stuff like that. And I know there aren't that many, but I have actually seen a couple of places, probably on OS Grid, that oh, here's a store. Somebody just likes making these sort of cartoony avatars that are animals. Whether you might find like the tiger face and the tiger look, whereas it would still be a humanoid avatar. That's what you mean. Right.
Actually, I want like one that walks on two legs, like a furry.
Yeah,
but a tiger.
Right, like a proper tiger, but
like a furry.
A biped instead of a biped instead of a quadruped.
Something like that. I have a real tiger, but that's not what I want. I want it like a cartoon tiger, so that tiger can go to events, and promote Tangle. That he's Tiger.
I have another mesh pussycat avatar in Second Life, which is what I wear when I'm not on air or anything. And it's mesh, but it's very low weight, and it's got its own little HUD. And I speed around everywhere. It's so lightweight when I'm teleporting and stuff. And more to the point, hardly anybody ever knows I'm there. They're busy treading on my head. People are talking to me and say, "Where are you? Where are you?" And I say, "I'm there, sniffing your shoe." They don't seem to look down. But the wonderful thing about the Pussycat avatar is I will go to medieval role-playing regions where you have to be in character. No problem. You're a pussycat. I've been in spaceships. I'm the spaceship cat. That cat can go anywhere because the rules that humans put on behavior in roleplay regions doesn't exist for the pussycat. He's as natural in any environment as you can imagine. Wow. He doesn't even wear any clothes to define his, persona. Yeah. He just meows.
Well, great Egyptians, the cats were the Queen's thing. So
but so if I'm really going to Second Life and I've got to go to a ball or something like that, like they do occasionally, and you don't normally get me going to those things, screw the formal attire or anything else. Pussycat trots in. You can't complain, formal ball or not. It's just a pussycat. I can't. Yeah. I don't have to have a bow tie on my pussycat. Thank you.
You need help, Mel.
Yeah, I do. I definitely do.
Jeez. Oh, Lordy.
Oh, it's so funny. There's a couple of other anecdotes I was going to slip in there as well. Oh, yeah, I did. We were talking about space, right? And you were talking about your boxing ring. Dragster in Second Life goes a few. But he's got an audio podcast on Fridays, not his World Builders video. And he was in space interviewing Adam the other week, and they wanted more people around, and his partner Joe or whatever her name is wasn't doing it. So I ended up on the Drax Files in a fairly mundane but acceptable space avatar. It didn't look at all like me, but so another guy, Joey Obama, was there too. He came on the stage near the end, and he knows more about building things there. I kept on getting these blue boxes saying Joey would like to animate your avatar or stuff, and I sort of say, oh yeah, what the hell, just click. And we started doing this sort of like kung fu fighting. Now, he was a really strange looking critter. I was a humanoid avatar, and my God, I've never seen myself move that well. It was all motion. It was all motion capture, and it was long form. And I'm not one for wearing a fighting animation, but I was running this, and Joey obviously thought it would be a lark because his critter was animating in very non-kung fu like ways, but we were doing it, and it was motion capture. It was so realistic together. And then Dragster, who was sort of filming this for himself, and turned around, panned in on us, and he kept on saying, Maljoy, can you do that again? Can you do that again? Because apparently it was the only thing that he really had to film in the whole session because it was a chat show. And so, well, we were great pals, but we're just doing this kung fu fighting, and then you conjure up visions of your boxing ring. So, but you haven't got this sort of 20-minute motion capture avatar for them to wear and go at it.
Well, we're working on it, so you never know. Maybe I end up putting in like Sylvester Stallone against Muhammad Ali. Whoever knows? You just need the avatars, don't you?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Oh, and I know the other thing I was going to mention. I can't claim any credit for this, Tamida. I'm hoping to work with the guy. We went on safari the other week. And I stumbled into something at first. I thought it'd be all a bit like one of those sort of, performances. There'd only there's me and a couple of the safari people hanging on at the end. And it was an avatar charades. And I was actually amazed how well it worked, so much so that I actually said, we should do a TV program of this. It would have to be modified because you'd need a panel of avatars, like a quiz show, and to do it properly rather than just taking turns in the audience and using chat. But it's really good because what you did is an avatar will get up onto the stage and they will click on a pose ball. Okay. And the pose ball would then animate them, a reasonably long or sometimes short animation. But only the person on the pose ball would know what the animation was describing. And the audience had to guess what the avatar was supposed to be doing. And people would guess this, that, and the other. It was all furious sort of chat. And eventually somebody would get it right or close to right enough that they won. And of course, then the player, it was like charades, the person doing it would then sit down and the person who guessed would take their place and do the next one. And, the people running this show had cleverly, it wasn't average sits and walks and stuff. They'd actually filled this, pause ball system with some unusual animations, like a teacher writing on the blackboard, or somebody digging something or washing up and things. So, they, sometimes you think, what are they doing? Washing up. And, you'd be wrong, but you get the idea it was something like that. And it is actually really quite engaging, like, traditional charades when you've got folks sitting around taking their turns to do a charade. And I thought this would actually make great TV because the whole animation charade side of it is just purely visual. And somebody watching this on TV would be having as much fun as the people in the audience trying to guess what's happening.
We also have, I'm going to have to get on T, but we have Wheel of Fortune. Team made a board, and you have categories, and you have Vanna walking back and forth, a bot or NPC, and she's flipping the letters, and if you get it right, she blows you a kiss. And we got Alex Trevec standing with his cards, another NPC, and you have 3 spots, yellow, blue, and it looks like the real stage, like the real thing. As soon as I get it, as soon as T gets it finished, I'll invite you over. We'll have a game.
Yeah, get me over and I'll fire up a camera to see how it looks as well.
Yeah, but we were gonna make a stage for it. We're gonna, get people involved in it.
But there are some things that work in the virtual environment. Arguably, something like this show. You can sit here. We could be in front of a big audience or something, and it'd be fine. But it doesn't necessarily particularly good TV. This show's as good as a podcast as video. It's up to people watching whichever they choose. But and some things in virtual environments just don't work because they need the environment to actually get to grips with it. But things like this charades thing just struck me as something on a 2D screen in front of me with avatars that just made, it was just right for something like that. So should get more of these things.
Yeah, but you have people doing plays, you have people doing operas, you have. In Inworlds, you have bands. Like I saw a Nickelback band in SL once.
Some of them, some of them are great. There used to be a Japanese band called the Yo-Yo Band. No, JoJo Band. God, I'm getting confused with that Greek guy. It's something like Yo-Yo Band anyway. A Go-Go Band, I think they were called. They were phenomenal. They were motion capturing a live performance. It felt like you were at a real concert with avatars, and they were on big 4 cluster sims, and they rigged it all very, very showmanship, professionally done. But there are others that just don't work for filming. The common thing, of course, is they're streaming, so the lips aren't moving, and they can't be bothered to wear a HUD that makes their lips move. So it's like something crooning into a microphone and miming, and their lips aren't even moving. You think, oh, come on, what is this? But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much in here is not really very filmable. I mean, James can probably comment on this too, because we saw some wonderful things at OSCC, which were like virtual theatre performances. But the actual task involved in filming them, they may have looked good to an audience of avatars, but it just didn't work with television. It was just not fluid enough. And there was one classic one last year. I refused to even post it, even though somebody did film it rather well. I wasn't going to post it on my account because they were wearing name tags, and they weren't wearing their avatar name tags. They were wearing the name tags of the character they were playing. But I just thought to myself, what is the point? Would I go into a real world theatre and see a Shakespeare play and expect the actors to come on stage with a sign sticking out their head telling me who they are? No, I wouldn't. What was the purpose of those tags? It just defeated me. And I thought it's made something quite serious, like a piece of Shakespeare. Whether it's a comedy or not, I can't remember, but it certainly became a comedy the moment they stuck those things in their head. It's go figure.
I hear Topan's moving up in the world. Topan, the one that does those light shows.
Oh,
Topaz?
I love that. Topaz.
Isn't that his name? What's his name? That does the light shows. Light shows.
In open.
Topan Asp. Topan Asp.
Oh, Topan Asp. Oh, yes. Yeah, he's very good. I love him. Yeah, he does gigs here. And yeah. There's a couple. There's friend of mine. Oh God, I forgot what she uses her avatar name. It's done them for a long while in Second Life too. It's like ambient music, and that just has lights constantly and effects constantly moving. With it, and things like the sky dancers are great too. If you get set up in advance, the camera work can be really good for that. You've got to set up cameras and switch between them rapidly, but whole light shows and dances going on. Amazingly, it's all one avatar controlling it all. It's just perfection.
But there are some entertainers who wouldn't pay a nickel, and then there's some. Wow, but people are craving for entertainment, live entertainment.
Yeah.
They'll take anything. Pretty much. As long as it's different, alive, and unique.
And the person on stage talks to them in chat. No, it's very funny. I'm into extremes. I love like there's somebody called the Virtual Pink Floyd who does a thing in Second Life, and I was very apprehensive about that because I gather, their promoter says they do have permission. I gather they don't. At least Pink Floyd didn't seem to know anything about it. But they did put on a spectacle. And then there's some people say she can't even sing or play properly, like Dual Resistance, who I absolutely adore. Because it's like, I think that troubadour magic of Second Life, it's like she's in your sitting room with you just playing a guitar. She doesn't need to be the world's best guitarist or singer to fill your room with that ambience. And that's how much I really like, rather than going to the big stage performances. So I guess it sort of swings and roundabouts. But, obviously when I'm thinking about filming or televising something, there's a whole different, you want to put on something visual, and, there's logistics and stuff involved to get it done so that it looks like proper TV instead of screenshots.
Yeah, I think this show is very informative, and my residents are glad it's around. because you guys do cover everything, pretty much. And that's why when I come, they have all these thousands of pretend you asked this, pretend you asked this. Can you ask that? Can you ask this? Can you ask that? Are you gonna get me shot? Well, ask anyways, you know. Like,
I actually really love it when there's I know it was the other week or some time ago that somebody from One Grid was here at some point, and they'd obviously told everybody on the grid they were going to be on it, and I don't know how many people were watching it, but during the whole show they were getting IMs with questions to answer. You know, and you know, which was kind of fun. And I think it was last week. You know, there was a conversation going on, and then a couple of people were in here were back channeling on Skype, and then other people who weren't even on the show, rather than talk in the chat room on YouTube, they were actually messaging me on another machine saying, "I didn't say that. I'm not doing that." You know, I didn't know which way to look, but it really added to the energy of the thing. You thought, oh, somebody is out there taking a note of every word. You know, they're probably tuned out today. They're hearing too much of me and not enough of you.
Oh, poor James. He started a conversation. We talked right over top of him.
What?
James? Wakey.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm switching cameras, you know.
Did we interrupt you on something? I don't remember that. I think I just
started something, then we kind of got
remember.
Sidetracked again.
Yeah.
Any 2 cents there, Jamesy?
No, I don't remember.
Are you having fun?
I can't remember from moment to moment. So
please don't stick your tongue out at me. That's not nice.
Oh, I don't have my emoter here, so I'm just one expression, looking off to the right of to the left of the screen. You know, that's
wonderful.
We do talk a lot about. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, they did it again.
Oh,
I was going
right.
to say we should have a Mel show where you just fill these seats up with just random people. I'll pick a couple, fill the seats up, and we just have a free for all. What do you think, Mel?
Right.
I like that. I always call this an open-ended chat show because it's nice to start with something relevant to the people that come here, but then just let it go where it's going to go.
Yeah.
It is preferable to know who the people are. Otherwise, we probably would end up with drama, and I don't want that.
Right.
Well, I don't know. Your ratings might just skyrocket.
They probably would. That's not they probably would. That's not the point. I'm chasing the right kind of people, not the ratings.
I don't know. Let's see. Put eight time there. Winter over there. Frank from Aztec there, or Altec, or whatever it's called now. Who else? Well, that should do. And I'll stand in the back and giggle. And...
Oh, yeah, I just realised we interrupted James again.
Yeah. Go ahead, James. I'll shut up.
No, it's just as you know, as the videographer or virtualographer, you know, just exactly. I'm looking at my avatar right now in the recording, and you know, OpenSim is so wonderful in so many ways. But why can't I look at the people I'm talking to? And you know, our gesture and avatar control sometimes is so terribly limited.
Yeah,
you know?
If you can do it while you're filming, if you can option click on my face,
I
you
can't.
should end up looking.
No, I can't do that. Not with the camera HUD.
And not with the camera up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I see. Yeah, because that often used to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I know if there's no animation override, like we're sitting in chairs, so the animation and the chairs are controlling us. But I know if I'm standing up and I move my mouse, I can actually literally look at who I'm talking to by pointing at them.
Yep. But you know, as scripting would be the thing to do,
right.
you know, and in a talk show format, if you know, we could script who we're looking at, namely the person talking, which is what people would do. But those eye scripts are not. I mean, the objects for eyes are not easily controlled.
Yeah, but you'd have to click on something because of our way we're communicating at the moment.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be. You'd have to click on something to let the avatar know who they're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you type their name in chat, and then the chat would pick it up and say, "Okay, they're talking to James, so let's look at James."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
basically the only way you'd be able to do it
Yep.
without touching them.
Yep. And it's like, oh, that scripting command, look at, that would be wonderful. It doesn't do what I'd hoped it would do. It's all right.
No, that's a little different.
Sometimes
I got those in kind of like statues on my grid, where someone comes in and the thing will rotate, look at, and say, "Hi, how are you doing, Sam?" or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the sensor sends out the nearest avatar, so it knows its name by just it being in the proximity of that thing. But
another thought
I'll
I
have
had.
to look this up. I had a.
Yep.
Sorry, James.
I was going to say another thought I had this afternoon was about if Second Life and OpenSim are like VHS and Betamax, which neither of them predicted YouTube. What's the YouTube that's coming next?
Drawing a blank. I should have an answer. I
Yep,
should have
yep.
an answer, shouldn't I? But yeah.
Microsoft will buy it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm surprised they haven't got their paws on Second Life.
Oh yeah,
because they were there about 4 years ago or 5 years ago. They were in negotiations with Second Life to buy
looking
them
at
out.
everything. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, they took over what they've got now. Google. Is Google one of theirs, or Skype is for sure?
Skype is for sure.
LinkedIn is Microsoft now. That's become a disaster as well.
Okay, all right.
Well, Linden's have branched off because one's got Grow Bits, the other one is Cesar or whatever it's called, right?
Cesar.
The Lindens themselves.
Yeah, well, they got a few weird games
High
that are still
Fidelity, that's the one.
No, High Fidelity is Philip Rosedale, but it's not Linden.
Oh, okay.
Philip is long. He's still got a few shares in Linden Lab, but he's departed. And Linden Labs have investments in High Fidelity and vice versa, but they are completely independent. And it's actually getting Philip and Ebbe talking to each other. It's quite clear they're going in vastly different directions, even though some people probably thought Sansar was a bit like even I did. I asked them, how's this Sansar looking compared with High Fidelity or vice versa? And when you start hearing the detail, you realise that High Fidelity is more like OpenSim.
Mm-hmm.
It's networked, and the sandbox component, in other words, your own region is on your own computer, and you log in with your sandbox into the network. And it's fairly. It will ultimately be infinitely scalable, I think. Sansar, again, there's nothing like that. You'll be logging into Sansar like you log into Second Life. You'll be in Sansar. You won't be anywhere else.
Or Star Wars Galaxies, which shut down one day.
Yeah,
right.
It's a very different thing. It's funny. I used to back in when he was in Second Life, and I got the chance to interview Philip. I would always come up with questions to do. What do you think of OpenSim and the idea of connecting to the hypergrid and everything else like that? I says, there's not enough people there. It's going to be a long while before that's feasible, and there's not really. I'm not saying we won't, but when the time is right. And of course, he's now long since left Linden Labs. But High Fidelity is modelled on an open system that is very much like the hypergrid. It's a completely different platform. But the idea is that everybody not only has an avatar, but they also have their own space, and their space is networked into the system, so you can jump between people's spaces. It means that ultimately, I guess High Fidelity themselves won't be running any massive server farms to host the regions, because the region will be on your own computer.
Yeah, well, that's a good plan, because look at Second Life. I don't even want to look at their server farms. It must be extreme.
Yeah, and one wonders just how old, and one wonders just how old some of those servers are too. Given I can't imagine that the servers in 12 years ago have all vanished. They're probably in there somewhere.
They haven't. All you got to do is when you go jump from region to region over there.
Yeah.
And you change servers, it tells you.
Yeah.
And I've seen servers I've jumped to that were there before I was. Well, when I first came in, because the names don't change unless they, unless they've changed the hard drives on them. But that'll be the only thing they've changed.
Yeah, I think the newer modern servers have greater capacity, basically, but that wouldn't be enough for you to get rid of an old one that's still some use, kind of thing.
Second Life went from 4 regions per server, or 8, up to 16 over the last 3 years. And they even said themselves in a report I once saw that they had lost something like 6 million in 1 month due to lack of interest in Second Life. Maybe this is what gives them the push to change their platform to this Cesar so they can keep up with the 3D worlds, like people making 3D models. Because Mesh is a big thing right now.
Yeah. And there's the Second Life's user base and I guess income by virtue of that is falling. It's quite frankly, it's probably a small proportion, but there are a lot of people from Second Life who will come to OpenSim or start their own grid because it's far more economical. So even in a way, they're leaving Second Life, but they're moving to somewhere that's very similar. Other people, most notably, I don't think there are many people you would remotely call pioneers left in Second Life now. They're on new horizons. The generational shift of people that are in Second Life now tend to be, they tend to just dwell there. They made it their home until it really runs out of allure. Some people, I imagine there's creators in Second Life who were given the opportunity, who work in Mesh and were told, oh, come and join Sansar and build for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine they're so busy building they haven't got time to go back into Second Life anyway. Even though it's another Linden platform, there could be a lot of reasons for it, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Second Life will go anywhere soon, but I think it is showing its age. I think it has lost the users that had that pioneering vitality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously competing against new kinds of platforms and more updated technology. And some people may just get bored with it.
I think it's the younger generation that they're going for, us old timers. And I'm talking age group anywhere from, 50 up. Years old, I mean. We're kind of set in our ways, so we don't change well. But the younger ones, that's all they're being taught with 3D models and mesh models and all this stuff, and they don't have a clue what a prim is.
More to the point, I think is if you're talking about that age group, I mean, actually, not that many of them are on Facebook anymore. They've got their own other channels. But, it's like that Facebook thing of the latest big thing. They're following the latest big thing. And, they might be in, if circumstances have been right, they might have been in Second Life for a couple of months. And then somehow something goes viral and, the next place to be is here. And they're off,
Mm-hmm.
And there's that, I think there's a lot of older people in both in OpenSim here and Second Life because it provides something for us who are slowing down a bit, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that it is no use chasing young people. You can use virtual worlds in schools for kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're 2 generations past 2 generations that grew up with computer games. And the idea of an environment, a virtual environment, is something they all know, but they know it from photorealistic games, and they play in them. They don't use them, if you see what I mean. They play in the game. They don't use the virtual worlds. And quite frankly, if I was, say, 17 years old now, I will be out busy trying to, travel a bit, investigate the real world, get laid, all the stuff you do when you're 17. And you can't do that virtually. Well, not.
Yes, you can. Where you been?
Not.
I thought you said you were in Second Life. Hello.
Yes.
You trip over it.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Yeah, I didn't mean it that way. you know, I don't know, you want to go to a different restaurant every night and have a different meal. You want to, I shouldn't have said that one, should I? Basically, you know, you're of that age. I mean, the last thing you would want, I think, is to be stuck in a virtual world. You're out with your mobile phone, you point your mobile phone at something and get an augmented reality data overlay. But that's not quite a virtual world. Virtual world's for generations or disciplines that want to slow down almost. Because we got time to. Can you imagine going on to Facebook and trying to have an audio conversation like this? There'll be so much going on, it wouldn't happen. Whereas here we can just sit and natter, can't we? Yeah. We can go at our own pace. And I don't, teenagers, people in their 20s are still very impatient human beings, with the future ahead of them. Kids, on the other hand, do take to, because of games and stuff, they do take to that level of immersion. And for kids who haven't yet, say, reached adulthood, particularly, if whatever that is, there is obviously a great space for education because, you can have your classroom online. And you can use the virtual world to go to school online, and you can learn things and be sent web links, and you can do as much stuff in a virtual schoolroom as you can do in a real one. And if your school is just down a couple of streets down the block and you go every day, that's one thing. But if you live miles away from a decent educational place, and would have to commute 2 days each way or so. Well, no, but the vast spaces like they have in America, it actually makes much more sense to deliver education online. And to get the equivalent of the schoolroom, you really need virtuality. So, and that is where you can grab the kids because they can possibly see the utility of virtual spaces over and beyond the games they're used to playing. But I think there's a generation which is like late teens, 20s, which is forever going to be a generation that's exploring every new horizon there is, And I rather suspect slowing down in the virtual world is not for them at that point in their lives.
Well, it depends. Like, that's what Second Life offers. There's so many different things that can be done. There's role-playing, there's a slave thing, there's a vampire thing, there's all kinds of fantasy things, but I find that
but I think those are mostly older people. They're not young.
Generations one less than me. I'm 60, almost 61. So a generation one less than me. Let's say 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they don't have the same think patterns we do. They don't think of work as work anymore. There's calculators, there's computers, I had to use a pen and paper to do my math. I didn't have a calculator.
Yep, same here.
You know what I'm saying? We actually had to think. Whereas this new generation, it's all...
Well, expertise has a new definition, really. Let's say I have to mention something here outside the context of the show. I have a large thunderstorm is coming towards me. And so I just wanted to let you know that if I disappear, well, then we'll all disappear.
Yes, very good point. Well, we'll probably should start wrapping up shortly anyway. But no, as usual, we're drifting into the most fascinating areas.
I warned you. Right. I warned you.
Oh yeah.
When we start drifting into different areas, that's the best. That's the best bit of the show because it's totally unplanned.
We'll pick this up next week. No.
Yeah,
we could.
No, it's very interesting. I think the education is Firstly, I mean, for most of my life, education has been a lifelong thing. You're always learning. The value of what we learned at school in my days is pretty limited because it was kind of dictated facts and figures and methods and things like that. But there was no awareness in the acceleration of progress and things in those days. So, for example, if you became a teacher, when I was, entering the workforce, and if I become a teacher, I would probably have expected to be, say, a maths teacher or an English teacher or an art teacher, and I would probably have expected to do that for the whole rest of my life without upgrading my skills. I would not be expecting midway through my career something like Photoshop to come along to redefine the art class. But now, accelerating technology and stuff is such that teachers really have to be, you have to take, time off every couple of years to update your own skills to be able to be imparting skills to the people you're teaching. And also the role of a teacher is really these days can really in this environment be nothing more than a guide. Your job is to guide and mentor. It's not to stand there reciting facts and figures that they can memorize all they like, but it's probably not going to do them any good in their adult life at all. What is the point of knowing the date of the Battle of Hastings, or what the name of the king that fought in it was? Or well, maybe it's useful to know where a little country in the middle of Africa is, but what do you need to know? What don't you need to know? I mean, the curriculum for most of the subjects I studied would be is of little and no use to me now whatsoever. I don't mean it's just out of date, but it was stuff that was fixed at that point in time. It has no context as the years have gone by. So I think it's mentoring, and if you can, I don't know, it's a minefield, but it strikes me that if I'm mentoring students in some way, a virtual environment is a very good way of doing it. It might not be solely a virtual environment. I might mentor them by showing them information which they would click through onto the web, or will be displayed on screens beside me or something. And I will be encouraging participation in activities, presumably, rather than just standing there like I'm giving a lecture.
Yeah, but how does that get the children off their chairs and actually doing physical exercise? That's in. We're obese countries as it is.
Yeah, no, I've got to agree about that. I mean, I'm not saying you're in world all the time, but I mean, if you're sitting in the classroom for 6 hours of the day, you're not running around exercising too. You do that in the hour you have a physical exercise, a day or whatever. Yeah, I'm not. I'm saying. When you're perched in the classroom seat, virtual, and you're distant from the school, then your chair at home or wherever you are is just as good as the chair in the classroom. I mean, there are, there's great things with virtuality now that you can use on a 2D screen. You can buy an exercise bike, and you can plug your iPad into it, and you can cycle through virtual countryside, even though it's an exercise bike that never really moves in the real world. And if you've got your headphones on, playing nice ambient soundscape or just your own music, and you're pedaling away, and you're pedal powering the iPad because you can create electricity to power it, and you're running an app that takes you on a virtual journey in sync with your cycling. And you are getting physical exercise through that.
I see the pros and cons on both sides. I see the pro being that they can see other cultures, they can visit other lands virtually, they can see someone doing something they would not see in their hometowns or villages or whatever, like go to see an Eskimo build an igloo, for example, virtually. Whereas in a textbook, you just read how you build an igloo or whatever. But on the other side, they always said once a child gets into video games, parents are always complaining, I can't get that kid off that computer. I can't get that kid to go outside. I can't get that kid to do anything anymore except this, and this. There's pros and cons on both sides of that.
I see the pros and cons in everything too, and I'm also a terrible devil's advocate when the opportunity arises. I actually think there is a problem with computer game addiction, as it were, that is actually at a distance from the concept of virtual worlds and things as utility. A lot of these games are written in such a way, like a good movie, you're meant to suspend disbelief and stay in there and they are not written to make you take a pause or to end in any reasonable fashion. Some of them are just endless, and it's not new to the modern age. I mean, back in the 70s, I was never one to go into the arcade machines and do Space Invaders and stuff like that. But my God, I knew people of my age who you could not get out of those bloody arcades. Even though they did actually share other interests with me. Once they were in the arcades, something took over and they switched off to reality.
And what are they doing today?
Yeah. So, and that was just somebody standing on their feet, whacking their hands against the joysticks and, rocking the machines. And God knows what they were doing, but you couldn't get them off them. So it was a certain personality type. It's like the old war on drugs argument. Arguably, there is no such thing as a drugs problem, but there are plenty of social problems. You can only identify drugs problems because it's the end result of a social problem of some sort, because that has led people who have a tendency towards being addicted people to drugs. But it could equally, computer game could be a drug. Alcohol is a drug. It's really the way, the framework you look at it in. So, there are people with problems, there are people with addicted personalities. But I actually personally feel that those people are often more put off by the virtual world because it isn't exciting and they're not being shot at, and they don't have to worry about getting shot in the first frame. They're almost compelled to do something and participate, not play, but actually participate. So I think that I will look at all sides of everything, but I've never equated virtual worlds with games, because virtual worlds, I mean, we actually inhabit, and they're communication spaces. Games are not communication spaces in any way, and when we inhabit them, we're really just following a pre-programmed path that is the game.
Can you write that out? Because how many people look over my shoulder? Oh, you're playing a game. This is not a game.
They just see the graphics on screen and think that must be a game, because they have never experienced a virtual world, and so they think, well, what's on screen? That's not real, and it's not a video cartoon. It must be one of those computer games that people play.
Yeah,
and because they can't see a photorealistic head of me talking back at them, they would not in a million years make the jump that that's me when they walk in the room now and see. They might if they actually watched and saw me talking in my headphones and my mouth moving, and they might click, but doubtful. I brought people into Second Life of the day, and maybe even a couple of times into OpenSim, who I try and explain what it is, and when they actually end up meeting other people in there, they freak out because they somehow had not clicked that they would be with actual other people. They somehow thought they just had an avatar in a pretty space. They didn't realize the avatar next to them was another real person. And suddenly, although it becomes the center of attention, and think, oh, I'm out of here, I'm never going back there. They almost clicked that, when they realized it wasn't a game.
Yeah, they're actually an actual human being, yes.
Yeah, and that those avatars aren't sort of characters you're meant to be playing with. So swings and roundabouts. Some people will always be averse to, being in public, as it were. Some people in virtual worlds are very shy, but they're quite public in virtual worlds. Other people are just downright shy, and they're going to be shy in a virtual world or anywhere else.
I know some that let their hair down more in virtual worlds because they're anonymous. They don't, like me, for instance. In real life, I'm actually quite reserved and sit back and watch people. I'm not very vocal. But in virtual worlds, only a grid, it has changed how I interact in worlds. I have to be more open, more vocal, and communicate with people. Literally.
It's called running a business.
Yeah, okay, but let's say I would like Second Life. I didn't own Second Life.
Yeah.
But I took the occupation as a DJ, but you have to be more outspoken than ever. Why would I do that as a person that is more sit back and watch other people?
Well,
It's
no,
because I can.
Yeah, and I'm very quiet and fairly introvert. Used to be terribly so, but not lately.
And you're running a news show. Hello.
Yeah.
Completely opposite to your actual
if I was in a TV studio in real life right now, it would be very hot. There'd be lights beaming down on my face, and I would feel very self-conscious because my face would be. I wouldn't be my lips moving. I'd be worried about my face twitching a little bit or my yawning and all the mannerisms I've got that can be distracting. Whereas when I watch myself here doing this show, all is just fine as I like it. I've got just a decent enough amount of animation. I look more or less right.
Kind of normal.
And, I can concentrate on hosting the show and talking if necessary too.
You don't have to worry about what your avatar is doing.
Or the other things I don't know how I don't have to worry about. Don't have to even worry whether I'm dressed or not, for that matter. I mean, it's all done via the sound of vision. So yeah.
But I think these virtual worlds actually let you be free, be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Whereas real life, you're afraid to be yourself fully because you're worried about someone judging you because they actually can.
Yeah, you have to laugh sometimes. When we were doing the news earlier, and I don't know where James can remember, but I haven't got my iPad next to me anymore. But I had two news items I read out the links to, and one was about how virtual worlds can help with solve problems with bigotry. And it was actually advocating all the things about virtual worlds that is not anonymity based. You can, without racial and sexual prejudice and stuff like that, a lot of the isms of the world can sort of just disappear. And the very news item after that on the show that I read out was also a very serious research item, but it was taking the opposite tack, which was describing the dangers to people working in virtual worlds because of anonymity. So you had these two very, just compelling little essays that had come up in the week as articles on these things, both with very, very valid points, but both of which, at the end of the day, were almost contradicting one another because the perspective of the writer was obviously different. I would probably favour the one that we can do away with bigotry, because that is kind of how I feel. I couldn't probably take the one about dangers of anonymity quite so. It didn't touch me quite as much,
Well,
but they both had their points, So.
Yeah, but you have to beware because you can get burned in these. How many women or men meet in Second Life or virtual open sim, whatever, and end up moving in real life thinking that these people are who they are in these games, virtual realities or whatever, and end up losing all their money, getting beat up, or worse, getting there and there's no one there.
Or actually turning up and finding the real world person is just not the person.
No.
Nothing like your avatar.
No.
Yeah. I would hope people weren't that stupid, but I thought, if you're going to go that far, it'd be like pen pals, if you're going to go that far, you might, you'd surely take a bit of time off to check out their real identity and chat on Skype or video or something.
Yeah, you'd think, but there are so many. I've seen real life videos, YouTube videos. I typed in damages of Second Life, and there was one girl, she was suicidal because she had dated this guy in Second Life 2 years, or married to him, or however Second Life wants to call it. Finally decided to go meet them, and she got a surprise of her life.
Yeah.
And then after that, he just dumped her because she actually took the incentive to go meet him. and end up losing everything. And it was some horror stories you see on YouTube about what these women or men go through.
Yeah.
You know, like we had it once on your show here when I was here one time. We talked about the suicide rates on Second Life, or you know, I actually was involved in one of those, and we were talking about the crisis line was hard to find on Second Life to help this person. We knew it was in trouble just because we could hear him in voice. And you know, it's people do take some of this stuff very, very, very seriously. It's their only lifeline, and when that's cut, I don't know what they'll do. Especially if Second Life actually just shuts the doors. You know?
Which would be even worse, because it would actually do that to several million people at once. Yeah. It's
so what do you do?
The world, virtual or otherwise, is a exceedingly fragile place. when you think about it, where it's like castles built on sand sometimes.
Well, I'm not saying just virtual worlds are like that. You've got other communicating.
No, that's what I mean.
Medias,
That's what I mean. Virtual or real life. You know, sometimes.
ICQ,
when
Skype, all those other ones too.
You lift the veil and you realise just how flimsy a lot of our reality is. So.
And then there's some that happily get married and have kids and live happily ever after. I'm not saying it's all horror, but it's the horror ones you hear about. You don't hear about the happy stuff. But like me meeting you, I would never have known you or James or D-Mac or any of these people, which I find, come to be very close friends with me. And if I didn't do this, I would have been sitting in my apartment looking at the TV, watching movies or whatever the case may be.
No, I have an online partner who's, we've been together, if you can call it that, and online for 11 years. But we know each other in real life. We know each other in real life too, but we met online, and it's just resonates, makes good companionship, So, there's you're quite right, in a different circumstance, even I could probably, could become embroiled with somebody who's leading me around the garden path or something for business or anything else, really, and it didn't happen, but I'm quite sure it's easy to fall into. But as you say, it's empowering as well as alarming. If you see. Anyway, I think we better start wrapping before we're getting more and more indulgent here, actually, and we're raising some good topics. But we almost need a big panel to thrash all this stuff out. Let's just to round up, we'll get some things we haven't mentioned yet kind of department. I'm just thinking you should head back to Tanglegrid. We've got the Steampunk Expo, which you can get. Oh, people can contribute now. They do they just find a patch and dump stuff, or do they find a patch and register it?
No, just find a patch and drop your stuff and put your your logo or whatever on the sign that's in front of your patch so people know who built it. And like I said, Glowbits is there. So if you want to put out like a little virtual store even that's selling with Glowbits, you're our guest, as long as it sticks with the theme. Well, you can't come in there and put down ships that are like ocean liners or something like that.
Medieval is not steampunk, folks.
No, something like that. You wouldn't put down animals or a cat.
Oh wait, but a half robot, half cat might be steampunk.
Yeah. It'd have to have a metal eye patch or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, and Glowbitville is right next door, so you can always just walk across, and you got all kinds of shopping there too. And it's also in Glowbit. And what else was there?
And I presume you can register
for our 4-year birthday. Everybody's welcome.
Oh, right. Now that's this week, isn't it? So,
yes,
what region do they go to? Is it
Welcome
just
Island.
It's the Welcome Island, okay? And so it's Tanglegrid.net, isn't it? Yeah. If I had my glasses on, I could just read your chat.
It's .com for the website.
Oh, right.
It's Tanglegrid.net, 8002, 2 points, Welcome Island.
I actually imagine if you're going to arrive at Welcome, they probably don't need the Welcome Island bit. They'll probably get straight to it from Tanglegrid.net 8002.
No, they'll probably end up at HG1 because that's the default region for the Hypergate.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Right. Okay. So that's Tanglegrid, Tangle as in entangled wires, Tanglegrid or one word, .net, :8002, :welcome.
Island.
Yeah. There you go. And that is on Wednesday from 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Till the cows come home.
Till the cows come home. And or the avatar's concerned drop dead.
And you don't have to dress in costume, but remember, it is a beach party, so if you want to put on your swimming trunks, we got hammocks laying out there, we got pork roast spinning on a spit. Is that what you call it? A spit when it's on a stick rotating over a fire? Spit?
Yep. Yeah, a spit. That's right.
And with you can sit and tell horror stories over there in the corner while you watch the pig roast. And we got sand, palm trees, not spruce, palm. Throw sand. So everybody's welcome, and it's going to be a good time. The music will be mixed. They'll throw in some Beach Boys, get the theme going. And some oldies and some rock and some country, whatever. Crest lines are open, so no problem at all.
Very good. Well, we'll try to make that. And if in advance we're close enough, I think I can actually wish you on the spot a very happy Tanglegrid 4th.
Thank you.
Yes. Got to do it that way, haven't I? Oh, and I did, see, James, I did turn to face her then. Don't know why.
Well, that was just coincidence.
That was just pure luck. I must have clicked on something by mistake.
Although I have to say, it is interesting how even the random animations will seem like they were intentional at points. I did an exercise in film class where we just took a bunch of images and put them to a soundtrack with no intentionality, and still the mind put together meaning between the two streams.
Yeah, it's almost like they're dancing. They're also like they're walking to the music.
Right.
I'm sitting in my car and I watch someone walking down the street and there'd be a song playing. It's almost like they're keeping in the beat.
Right.
Yeah.
It's completely accident, but the mind puts the pieces together.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Okay, so that was and we can look forward to another treasure hunt around the autumn.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That's always a good draw.
We need this one to be a little bit more successful because we are the last one. Not the last one per se, but the one before that was very discouraging. Considering it's open, Hypergate enabled. Any grid, any region can be involved in it, and any world. It's not like Tangle only. Tangle only hosts it. But you can have it on Osgrid, you can have it on Metro, you can have it Kitely, you can have it Reykjavik Grid, you can have it anywhere. And the points are all accumulated for all the worlds and then first prize and so on and so forth and so on.
Sure. Yeah, those I thought were great. And for really this is a message to all of you out there. I mean, it may be awesome before it happens, but if you want to take part, let Leslie know. Because actually it brings traffic to your regions.
Yes, very much
basically you don't have to give prizes, although you can if you want. I mean, basically you just res markers and people jump all over the hypergrid following these markers, and the people that win are the people that visit the most places. So that if you can get them come chasing the markers, you can hide them a little bit on your region, so they take in your region while they're looking for them.
Because each marker you put a hint on, so it gives you gives your searchers a bit of a hint. But don't give it too obvious, because you want to let them work for it a little bit.
Exactly. Work for it and stay on your region for a little while at least while they work on finding it. Yeah. So it benefits everybody really, because it's really a great excuse to go and explore the hypergrid. And if you get high points, you might even win something. And some of the prizes in the past have been considerably worth winning. They're not all just virtual goods, for example.
No, it's cash, VR glasses,
Yeah, so well worth doing. But it doesn't matter whether you're a grid or just a small region. It works on a region basis, so
Yep.
anybody out there can do it. And if you plan it now, it's very easy to do. You would just get given a little kit, and then you will put the marker. I won't say what it is, but you will
No,
put.
I know.
It might be different now anyway. You basically put the marker where you're going to hide it, and then you type in a little into a note card the clue, and that's it. You're away.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to set up, and everybody on that big hunt will have to visit your sim or your region at some point, because the idea is they're going to collect
these points. Yeah.
all these points. Yeah. And the winners are the ones that get the most points. So it's not in their interest to not come to you, so to speak. And you get the traffic, so you get a bit of exposure if that's what you want. If you want to be a private little garden somewhere with nobody ever coming and disturbing you, you might not want to take part in the hunt.
No.
That's about the only reason. That's about the only reason I could think of. So do God tell Leslie, as I say, it's hypergrid wide. Every region, every grid that's on the hypergrid can take part.
Yeah, you have to be hypergrid enabled. That's only basic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the deciding factor. Okay, well, I'm feeling exhausted too. The heaters come back to Britain today, so yeah. Oh, it did in the evening.
Last week it was murder here in Holland.
Oh yeah, it was cold until today, but now it's not the 90s again, but it's passable this summer. So I'm warming up. I closed the window for the show too, so we don't get the outside noise. Right. Okay, roundup. James, any comments? Anything you've noticed in passing? Final thoughts?
Well, in terms of things passing, the thunderstorm has passed, and so I don't know if you heard anything. We have little ones here, so
no, didn't hear a thing.
Okay, good. It went quickly. So the no concerns about power outage, so that's fine. No, I don't really have anything to offer at the time, so I'm just enjoying the discussion.
Yep. Wonderful. That's what it's all about. So talking of which, I think we'll bring it to an end. What have we done? I'm looking at my clock. Hang on. We've been on for 2.5 hours.
2.5.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I said it's 1.5. Oh,
I warned you. Warned you.
Well,
Every time I come to the show, we run late. Every time.
Last week was over 3 hours, and I think the week before was getting on for 3 hours. I just assumed that with just one guest, it wouldn't be quite so long.
Right.
You never know. Oh well, wonderful chat anyway. So I take any final thoughts you want to add, or have we covered everything you think?
He's talking to you, James.
Oh, I thought he was talking to you.
No, you.
I'm talking to you, Leslie.
Who's he talking to?
I thought you're talking to him. Now you're talking to me.
Didn't you see? Don't you see where he's looking? He's looking right for you.
I finished with James. Now I turn to you, and I did turn.
No kidding.
Got some shops still open in Globits. Globits is at Expo and at Globit Bill. Come to the 4th birthday party. It starts 10 a.m. Game time. I'm done.
Okay.
And I love y'all. Love y'all, people.
And there is a little plus point I found out today when I accidentally I loaded up Inworld and found what I thought was a grid called the British Isles with 2 people online. So I thought, oh, British Isles, I'm a Brit. I'll go and have a look.
Brits own it.
Guess where the British Isles is? It's in Tanglegrid. Open Sim Grid reads things by regions, not grids. So, and this was after I was talking to Leslie earlier, so it was that kind of thing of, oh, guess where I've ended up? She's coming on the show later. But if you're a Brit like me, maybe you'd like to go to tanglegrid.net 8002 British Isles.
Yeah, that's how you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a little plus point. Anyway, before we giggle ourselves into the floor, I can begin. It's that time, isn't it, when you can hit the giggles coming on. We will say goodbye. I wish you a very good morning, very good afternoon, very good evening, and indeed a very good tomorrow if you're Australian, or well, wherever and whenever you are. and we'll see you again hopefully next week. Bye for now.